Zach, we're live again.
It's the fastest back-to-back ever.
Could be. I like
Good.
your new shirt.
Thanks. One of 30 in existence.
That is true.
I believe. Last night was the big event.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts.
I thought it was a great
Virginia
event.
qualifier.
Yeah. Yeah. Startup World Cup. It was great. It was. I'm pleased. I think it exceeded everyone's expectations, which is great. We flipped the traditional pitch competition upside down. Tried some new things. Brought some new excitement.
Ivy Watch winner.
Yep.
When I asked Gary Warren, he was shocked. He did not expect to win. Which I don't know if he was just being,
humble.
Nice. Yeah. Humble. But kudos to him. He did not like the belt, he told me. So he immediately got that championship belt vacated from himself.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary and the Ivy Watch team. It ended up going to Dustin Dunbar. Did you know the judges were sitting all together at one point? Did you notice that?
I did not. No, I didn't. And so one of the things that we did for the audience, for you all listening, was we did not have the judges on a panel. They weren't on the stage. We told them to just sit randomly throughout the crowd, because typically when you have a pitch event like that, the pitchers pitch to the judges, and we wanted the pitchers to pitch to the audience. And then, as it turns out, all 5 judges end up sitting together in the audience. So it's just, we tried, but no, I did not notice. I mean, it was, the theater held 300 people, so I didn't notice that they were sitting next to one another.
I didn't really know who the judges were anyway. So then when you see them all walk down together, I was like, okay, this is wild. Top moments for you?
Yeah, it was. Well, I think the funny thing is, I think that our entrance was on point. No one knew where to look. And so
you have video of the entrance at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
So Zach and I, we did not enter the stage. We didn't go on stage the traditional way.
Yeah. Walked down the stairs,
went through a
very heavy, difficult door to open.
Yes.
Which we thought we had propped beforehand, to then find out moments before that we weren't. I'd like to just give a quick shout out to any entertainer in the world, and how the hell they don't sweat their asses off the entire time, because it was hot up there. One of the judges afterwards goes, "Oh, as soon as we got on stage, we understood what you meant by the heat," because they had to sit down the whole time and we're fine. It was wild.
That was unfortunate. Of course, it was like the hottest day in August in a long, long time. And that, of course, is the day that the HVAC goes out in the theater.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. Well, the HVAC went out in the lobby. The theater was still good, but then when you pack almost 300 people in the theater, then, it only could do so much. But the funny thing was, you specifically asked during our walkthrough, can we make this theater really, really cold? Because we don't want it to get hot. But such is life. The show must go on. Yes.
This
former governor almost got stabbed by.
That was the former governor?
He's a former governor and former.
I didn't realize. God, I know no one.
Former governor and
what's her name? I can't think of her name now.
Crystal
Lugo of
glove scaler
gives a pitch, tremendous pitch. I could see the background really getting into it. Right, there's John Paris in the background, just dying, and other people just into it, yeah. I don't know if our guest today was there for this part, but she has a former. She was on a show in the past. She won the Pharrell pitch event too last year too.
Yeah.
So the idea is, or the business is, when you're scaling a fish, I guess you have to use one of these monstrosities, which is a freaking knife, by the way. She takes this in the middle of her pitch and goes, yeah. She goes, "I'm just going to get rid of this knife forever," and throws it down. literally inches away from the former governor, who at the time I did not know. I'm just sitting behind her.
United States Senator.
And then I make the comment afterwards, like, "Are you okay, sir?" And then Tim says something about Secret Service. I just thought that was funny. Now I know why it makes even more sense. Like, what a monstrosity. We hope everyone had a great time. Today's guest was there in attendance. I wore a suit for the first time in however long. That was a shocker. That immediately was off in about 7 minutes. But it was a good time.
It was fun. Yeah. It was fun. Jay, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you again.
Howdy.
2 days in a row.
Thanks. Great to see you again, Tim and Zach. Yes, I was there early on. I actually know Crystal Lugo. I was not there for that. I am so saddened that I didn't see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was another interesting thing. We'll get into the show, but it was just like we wanted to keep the energy high. We wanted to make sure that people didn't, to keep their attention. And
snooze fest is what these things are tremendous. Historically, that's what people call them.
And so, like, backstage, Zach is like, so what we did in between 4-minute pitches, again, for the audience listening, we added random 60-second pitches just to keep the energy level up. And so we can expose more of like the great companies that Virginia has to offer to the rest of the world. So Zach and backstage is like, Tim, let's do 2 back-to-back 60-second pitches. And we were like, cool, let's do it. And so Crystal was the first one. And then we went into the second one, which was
Emblem Olive Oil.
Yeah. And Chastity. And those were 2 back-to-back great pitches, and the energy level in the place just went super high level. It was great. Just total randomness.
And then I threw a t-shirt at her a little later, and because she has olive oil hands, she dropped it.
And look, early on, the first t-shirt throw, I was standing up in the back. I guess y'all didn't see me, but you had some. I think Zach, you threw one all the way to the back at some point. You guys both have some good arms.
I did bounce one off the back wall.
There we go.
And I didn't mean to call out the person that I called out who was looking at their phone, but
somebody called out. Was it you, Tim, or Zach? And said they were angry they didn't get a t-shirt. And Zach, I love how you handled that.
Oh, yeah, that was you, Zach,
early on.
I don't remember what I said.
It was fun. Just believe me.
Well, I was trying to replay parts of the night, in my head. So, but thanks for everyone who came. It was a good time, and yeah. Jay, have we ever met? You and I?
I don't think you and I have met.
Okay. Tim, you guys have?
We met a couple times. Sure have, and yeah. It's one of those things. Every time Jay and I see each other, we're like, hey, we got to meet for coffee or lunch or something. And then like, we're just both super, super busy people that, and it's a terrible excuse, and I'll own that excuse, but as being terrible. But yeah, so we'll run into each other, and we hope to have a more lengthy conversation. But until then, we're going to do this show, and we'll learn about you and what LISC Hampton Roads has got going on, and share the story.
Awesome. And I'll take ownership as well, Tim. We'll make it happen sometime soon.
Yeah. So tell us about LISC Hampton Roads and what you all do. What's your mission? How are you?
Absolutely. So Local Initiative Support Corporation is a national nonprofit based in actually in New York City with 38 local offices. So I have the privilege of leading the Hampton Roads office. We have our office in Old Town Portsmouth, but we serve the whole region. We're all about improving quality of life through affordable housing production, through wealth building mechanisms, through small business support, as well as overarchingly what we like to say, community resilience. How do we help communities be as resilient as possible against economic downturns, against personal and community types of issues, whether it's environmental, social, you name it. And so we are a very broad-based organization, if you can picture that. And we're a CDFI, Community Development Finance Institution. So Tim and Zach, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here, share more about what we do, answer any questions, and hopefully survive the show.
I like that. So were
Yeah.
you the originator of this, or had it been here before?
No. So, but great question. So, Zach, we started in Hampton Roads in 2020. So just before the pandemic, the office opened up officially in January of 2020. I came on board June of 22. So during that COVID timeframe at the beginning, I was still serving as Deputy Director of Community Development for the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development over in Richmond. Served 5 disjointed years there. My last stint was 4 years. Prior to that, I served 10 years at HUD, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also at the Richmond office. So I spent the last 16 years in Richmond. Moved to the Hampton Roads area just last summer. And so the first year that I had been working here, I actually was commuting, believe it or not, between the Richmond region and here. And on paper and on a map, it doesn't seem that bad. And you try it out for a while, and it was terrible. So I'm very happy that we're here. But the organization itself nationally came about back in 1979. It's really got its roots in Brooklyn, like community development, housing, affordable housing, economic development, and it's been expanding since then. Maurice Jones, who is a Norfolk resident, everyone knows Maurice.
Yep.
He was at the time the CEO of National LISC, and so with him, with his leadership, with Centera Health, back then still called Centera Healthcare, forged a partnership and said, let's get a LISC office going in our area. And so that really was the beginning of that. And now our CEO is Michael Pugh. Hopefully we'll get Michael to come down and visit the area. Maurice is still actually serving on our local board. So we're grateful for that presence. We still have a great partnership with Centera Health. I work very closely with Sherry Norquist there, and we have a lot of grants that we've been able to deliver to mostly to nonprofits throughout the region. We can talk about that a little bit more. A lot of those grants, if not most of them, are powered by our Centera Health relationship as well.
Just quick side note. I want to drive from like where I live to Richmond like every once in a while, like maybe twice a year. To do it every day.
Oh, that was
Kudos.
killer. That was killer.
That drive is a lot further than people want to give it credit for. Like it's far.
Oh, and I'm thinking, you try to rationalize in your mind by saying, well, the closest part of the Richmond region, how far is that to the closest part of the
Right.
Hampton Roads region? But then, in reality, I was living kind of on the west end of Richmond, and I had a meeting one Friday at Virginia Beach Town Center that ended at 5:30 in the summertime. Took me 2 hours to get beyond Ocean View and get on to the HRBT, and another 2 hours to get home. And so during that ride, I'm on the phone with my wife, and I'm like, yeah, we got to kind of rethink this thing.
Yep.
That's how it be.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough. Yeah. One of the things that you've mentioned a couple times already, just on this show, affordable housing, and I hear it all the time. I mean, for years we've heard that about this area. Why does it continue to be such a challenge for so long?
Right.
And what are we doing to what is being done to fix that, or is that the problem?
All of the above. So first off, what is affordable housing? I think that terminology, just like unfortunately many terminologies in this day and age, has become in some corners fighting words. But depending on who you're talking to, where you are, affordable housing is basically opportunities to have suitable housing that is decent, safe. You have a roof over your head, you have all the things you need. You're warm in the winter, you're cool in the summer. and you can afford it. And when I say you can afford it, back in the day, we used to say the general consensus and HUD, et cetera, would say, we don't want you paying more than 30% of your income to housing. So housing includes your rent or mortgage, plus your utilities, plus any associated costs, insurance, et cetera. Now, that percentage, unfortunately, because of the increasing housing costs, has really gone up to 40% and gone up to 50%. And so, depending on what circle you talk in, it's considered acceptable for you to be paying 50% of your income. Now, I mean, if you're making boatloads of money, then maybe you don't really care. It doesn't have as big of an impact. The lower your income is, those percentages are drastic. And so you still got to cover potentially education. You still got to cover medical bills and childcare. And so the issue is, folks there's no wiggle room, and people want to, I don't care what your income is, people want to take a vacation every now and then. Maybe you won't make it to, Thailand, but people want to, go down, I don't know, Myrtle Beach, or just get a hotel over in Virginia Beach. But, there's no income, like discretionary income, the lower the incomes you get. And so, but that's even a side note. There is a lack of housing units, to get back to your main question. And so we as a nation have really, even before COVID hit, construction was starting to dwindle. COVID hit, it really stopped. And so we haven't really ramped up. And if you look at new construction, in this area, in this state, and in this country, you'll see that we're not where we are. And so there's a lack of housing units that are available. You have those nice interest rates from around 2021. You got a lot of people that are locked into, 2%, 3% interest rates. Those folks are not moving anytime soon, unless, they have some beautiful situation that arises. And so many of those folks are occupying what we would consider starter homes. So if you're looking at 2-bedroom, maybe 3-bedroom, maybe 4-bedroom homes that are modest, 10, 15, 20 years ago, in many markets, including Hampton Roads, you could find a modest home that we might consider a starter home in the $100,000, maybe $200,000 range. You can't find those anymore. Many of those houses exist, but they're not coming onto the market. And so folks don't have the availability of units that they're looking for. So they end up living potentially in precarious situations, less than ideal housing. Maybe they're having multiple families in one housing unit. There are a lot of different ways that people address that. But the number one thing is people end up paying more and potentially getting less quality. And so, we need to have more construction. We need folks that are also thinking creatively about how we can, bring these costs down. And we can certainly talk about some of those creative steps as well.
The 40 to 50% thing, that's interesting. I never knew that number. I didn't know that 30% was the number that was kind of the way to look at it. So to have an increase of that's pretty high as well. You didn't say military at all in there, though. I've always thought that the military stipend, the housing stipend, was one of the main reasons why our area was a higher ticket item for housing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a factor. But if you talk, depending on who you talk to, even military individuals and families potentially experience issues. If you're looking off base, you may have the resources that you need to secure housing, but are the housing units that you want to secure, are they available? So you still potentially hit that same issue. I think for Hampton Roads, because we're landlocked, we're surrounded by so much water, we don't have an endless availability of land to continue to grow. And so if you look at regions such as the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill Triangle area that is not landlocked, they continue to expand out. And I'm not saying that that's the right way to develop. Many would call that urban or suburban sprawl. But nonetheless, because they're doing that, it allows prices in those outer areas to be lower. And so what we have to do in Hampton Roads, whether it's for military individuals and families, whether it's for the general population, we have to reinvent our communities continuously, because if we don't, what happens naturally is decline. And so that is a big challenge because of ownership issues. So if we're talking about, if you were to take a census of any city, any county in our region and look at where are the vacant housing units, where are the dilapidated apartment buildings, somebody owns those, whether, regardless of when they became vacant or when they became less than par. And so how do you incentivize those owners, whether it's single family or multifamily, to reimagine what that could be and bring something that is modernized onto the market?
Just real quick. So I get the point of, yes, there's some water on the other side, but you can make the argument that the western part of this region has plenty of area to grow. So then your point, I said yesterday, I play, a bad guy on the show, for an hour a week. This is me playing devil's advocate, right? Like, I'm looking at a map right now. I grasp your concept that yes, water is there, but west there's fine. So then it's like, okay, is this really people wanting their
that goes into the question I had.
Specific area? Yeah.
Is it a zoning issue?
Oh, zoning is always an issue, but also to Zach's point, which is a great point. So you've got Suffolk, great landmass. You've got Isle of Wight County. You've got Southampton County. So, there's an infrastructure issue, and then there's the political, kind of not like Democrats and Republicans to the most extent, but local politics in terms of what does Isle of Wight County want to look like in the future? Does it want to become a Chesapeake? Does it make sense for it to become Chesapeake? If you look at the Carrollton area of Isle of Wight, kind of the closest in area, that area is developing very, very rapidly. But the western part of Isle of Wight, I would argue it's probably going to remain rural for a very, very long time. But that what is Isle of Wight's and what are the other counties' priorities? You need infrastructure to develop, and then how close are you to the job markets? Because the folks that are going to live there are most likely going to be commuting into Newport News, into downtown Norfolk, and wherever. And so it's a transportation, infrastructure. You got to have water, you got to have schools.
It's crazy. I had an event in Franklin, Virginia. The Monitor Merrimack was shut down. Tunnel was shut down for some reason, so I had to take the James River Bridge, and traffic was backed up from before the James River Bridge all the way past to get to those first couple traffic lights after the bridge, because there's so much traffic going into Carrollton. It was bananas. I was like, I don't, and like those people, they just have to deal with that every day because it's a traffic light issue. It's wild how fast it's developing and the infrastructure is not growing with it.
But isn't everything that you just said about like saying, hey, like growth is happening and this is what happens when an area grows? And unfortunately, it's like when people used to complain at like ODU, it's like, hey, people are here now. Yeah, this is what happens when a university gets bigger. This is what happens when your area is bigger. It just happens. Like, I get that there's upset people and like we want Isle of Wight County allegedly to stay the way that it is now, but it's like, suck it up, Buttercup. This is just what happens.
And that's the thing that's so interesting. It's just like sometimes, the people that are the decision makers, they don't want to see a change. They want to keep it the way that it was. That's the local
But I feel like they're all talking about growth anyway, though, and so it's.
but what does that growth look like? And so I've found you always have NIMBYism, not in my backyard. So even when I worked at HUD years ago, I remember, although I was working in Richmond, we had a project in the city of Chesapeake in the South Norfolk neighborhood. And it was a quote unquote affordable housing type of initiative to refurbish a lot of housing, dilapidated housing. There was backlash in that neighborhood against it, saying we don't want any more quote unquote low income housing, when ironically the particular street we were on was considered low income housing already. So you have NIMBYism against activities that are very similar even to what's already there. And of course, in higher income neighborhoods, you potentially have NIMBYism against putting something that would be perceived as lowering my value. So these are political fights that developers, both for-profit and nonprofit developers, deal with. You got city council members, you got county administrators that are either for these developments or against. It's always quite interesting. And some of these projects are like, they take 7 years. It's so you got to persevere to push any of these projects. And actually, that is part of the issue. So we need more housing. We need more housing on all levels, lower income, moderate income. We even need housing for your executives. So companies potentially bypass our region and go to other states when they say, I don't like the housing stock that's available for me as an executive, and I don't like the housing stock that's available for my staff. So we're just going to take this and go somewhere else. So we need, as economic developers, as community leaders, we need to be thinking holistically about our amenities. Last thing I'll say on that is I was at a meeting recently with, I just became a Elizabeth River Trail Foundation board member. And in one of our meetings recently, it was discussed, Bob Crum of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission mentioned that the number 2 reason for coming to or staying in a region by young professionals is access to walking and biking and hiking trails. The number 1 reason is access to jobs, but amenities such as trails, those are things that that folks are looking for. We just have to think holistically.
Yeah, we brought that up a few times on this show. Just
the
lack thereof.
River,
yes.
Yeah. Is the Elizabeth River Trail going to actually become a trail at some point, or is it going to be more of a route like it is now?
And by that, do you mean?
I mean, it's like it's. There are parts to it that are actually, you can tell, okay, this is like a trail, like by the hospital, right? It's not just like a mixture of things. Is there ever going to be a more concise effort to make it more traily instead of like, hey, this is a route through a bunch of different places? Because I always think of it as like it's more of a route than an actual trail. There are parts of it that are like a trail, right? But it just, I don't know, maybe that's a unique thing of it. Maybe I'm just being ridiculous. I like the place, but I think it's more of a route than a trail. Maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Part of the mission is to stay as close to the Elizabeth River as possible, and I would say quite obviously due to the name. And so the big push right now is to connect on the eastern end to what will eventually become Virginia Beach's trail. And so you'll be able to go along the existing and the extended Elizabeth River Trail and go all the way to the Virginia Beach oceanfront. And so
is that the old railroad tracks?
That is the old, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so making that connection in the Newtown Road area. And so while the trail does have some points where it kind of meanders, yes, over time you will see more consistency, more connection. And then there's a big push statewide really to connect trails continuously, so that you've got the Capitol Trail now that you can get from Richmond down to the Williamsburg and Jamestown area. Well, that the plan is to get you all the way down to Fort Monroe in Hampton, and come back around and go over the James River Bridge and connect to the south side there with existing and new trails. So we'll have a network of trails, hopefully in the near future. I'm thrilled to have that.
Yeah, I had just learned about. So I live down near the NASA area of the peninsula, and so they're doing a road widening project, and I learned
Yes.
that they're going to connect that to eventually get to the Capitol Trail and
Oh, that's great.
turn the existing bridge into a pedestrian bridge, which is awesome.
Maybe this is a new way of thinking rather than the old way of thinking, and that's how it was. Maybe that's just the answer. But there is a lack of sidewalks and trails in this area. As someone who, works with building communities up, like, is that something that's very much in the forefront of like, hey, we need to have these things there now, or like, is that just like, because you go to Northern Virginia, and they're just everywhere. Right? It's like, okay, this was this is an effort that we wanted to make sure that it was there. Here, it's like it's just not the same. Sounds like it's starting to happen, but like when you're seeing these communities, are trails and means of people to walk on foot or bike. Is that something that is an effort that's going down?
I think it is because people want community, and so when you think of community, it's access to healthy foods, it's access to schools, etc. We've mentioned trails. People want walkability, and so I think the push for suburban sprawl and the kind of the 1970s, 1980s office parks. We're still going to have that to some degree, but I think the push now is whether you're in a true urban core like downtown Norfolk, or you're in an area like Virginia Beach Town Center that has developed in an urban way, you're going to see areas continue to try to create themselves and recreate themselves with a kind of a city fabric. So that will include, I believe that will include sidewalks. Walkability is a major thing people look for.
I mean, the thing that concerns me so much is like we already have this challenge right now, and there's like I believe the shipyard alone is like 40 something thousand jobs that need to be filled, and it's a big challenge. And I think that's just from like the submarine portion, like submarines, welders, and electricians, like 45,000 jobs that are vacant.
Yeah. Are you all familiar with the initiative? I just got an email last night on it, so forgive me, I'm not remembering what it's called, but it's an initiative to make the HRBT, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, an iconic bridge of in America. And when you think about bridges like the Brooklyn Bridge and other great bridges, the Golden Gate Bridge, I mean, that alone, people will go to those places literally just to see the bridge. So it's a tourism mechanism. But when you look at those, I'm thinking of the Brooklyn Bridge right now. You can walk, you can bike on that bridge. And so our main connector bridge in our area, of course, and of course the Monitor Merrimack, we don't have that walkability. And I know there are obvious issues, in terms of having the tunnel. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to be walking in
sucking some exhaust.
Right, right. So maybe that's a thing that we never are able. That's a bridge we're never able to cross. And obviously, we need those tunnels because of military purposes. But it's just a thought. I'm excited for what that initiative will possibly do. But at the same time, I wish I could ride my bike from Fort Monroe to Ocean View. That would be awesome.
That would be great.
I think it depends on the area. I saw a piece on that. It's actually Oz was interviewed. Tim. I saw it on. I saw it somewhere. It's interesting. I've always thought of like, what are the prettiest bridges in this area? I think the Coleman is probably that answer. I don't know I look at that and I think, okay, like I get the concept, but like you said, you need that walkability maybe so that people can actually go do that. The new Jordan Bridge, while not necessarily good looking, like is weird and meanders kind of like some of the rivers in the area, but you can walk on that. People are constantly doing stuff there.
Yep.
And so nothing against the HRBT or the Monitor Merrimack and maybe pushing those, but like maybe do the one from Portsmouth to wherever that goes to Norfolk, maybe, because there is maybe a bigger option there, but cool to see.
Yeah, actually, good point. And the views from up there are spectacular.
Yeah, almost 200 feet tall.
Wow.
And there's a park right below, and then you got one of the ports on the other side. If I recall, they probably, I don't know. It'd be cool. You might get a lot of pushback from those people not in my backyard that don't want more traffic there with the HRBT. If you know what I mean, Jay.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You start. What'd you call it? The NIMBYs. The NIMBY.
Yeah, the NIMBYs.
Whatever's.
Yeah.
The NIMBYs.
Yeah.
What is the icon of the area? What's the landmark of the area? What would you say?
It's probably Tim and Zach. I don't know.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. No devil's advocate here.
Right. Now, is LISC involved? Are you involved with the project in the southeast portion of Newport News, Marshall Ridley? That's really, really impressive. What's happened down there?
That's a big project. I'd say we are peripherally involved. We don't have any specific funding going into it, but we've been kind of sitting on the sidelines watching. We're on standby to potentially participate. We have a few things also that are on the periphery where, we're kind of waiting to push the green button. We've got some potential developments. So we do have lending mechanisms. So part of what makes us a CDFI is our ability to lend funding, in this case to developers to establish affordable housing, mixed income or mixed use types of facilities. So we're looking at some opportunities there. We have nearby, we've supported what we call a financial opportunity center. That's a flagship LISC program that started in Chicago. And I say nearby, we were running one out of Brooks Crossing, which is pretty close by in Newport News. And so we certainly have our eyes there, and it's a huge endeavor. If you haven't been there recently and you go through there, there's so much reinvestment. I would say it's great to see, in particular when it comes to public housing. It's great to see folks getting an opportunity to come back to their old neighborhoods, but to come back into better housing situations and situations that now provide access to more amenities that perhaps they didn't have before. And also, a lot of times folks don't think about, quality neyborhoods oftentimes. And yes, you have high quality neighborhoods that look like a variety of they look a variety of ways. But when you have mixed incomes, and so in this case, they're bringing in market rate housing, but also there's low income housing. Imagine being a kid who maybe doesn't have or doesn't see many opportunities. Parents with low income, maybe working multiple jobs, not able to really spend a lot of time at home. But now you're being exposed to neighbors who maybe do have some more opportunities or have some more access. The natural synergies that happen there is really a beautiful thing. And you can read studies that show that that even whether you're in a low income family or a higher income family, that when you're exposed to more diversity of incomes, diversity of cultures, etc., your outcomes tend to be better, and your worldview tends to be more accepting of others, and that just tends to create I think greater synergies in the community. So I'm looking forward to what's to come in the Southeast neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's super impressive. Just the entrepreneurial and business opportunities that people have. It's really well done. Super impressive.
Agreed.
Is there a number when you say affordable housing for this region? Is there a number that that is in your mind that's around that 30% mark, around the median income?
So I apologize. I don't have the
A rough
incomes.
number?
Yeah. So in terms of like what someone would be making, or really
Well,
what
you say
that rent
affordable
would be.
housing, what's the goal number that we're looking at for that? Is it the 100 to
Mhm.
200s that you were saying earlier? Because I mean, I feel
Well,
like
I
you
think
talk to any realtor, those aren't on the market.
well,
And
that's
Right.
like,
yeah.
So renting wise, I'll start there. And everything's going up and up and up. So my I guess what I need to accept is going to be higher than what I'd wish. But if you're, let's say, a family of four, um, if you were able to achieve rent below $2,000,
That was the
um,
number I had in mind.
yeah, then you're probably doing pretty well in terms of like you found something that's good, that's affordable. And obviously, I don't know your income situation, the hypothetical situation, but the reality is we're seeing those rents, well above 2,000. Um, and again, like for lower in people with lower incomes, I'd like to see those numbers getting closer to 1,000. And so like 1,200, 1,400. Um, those are just increasingly extinct. And so on the purchase side, I was just in a conversation the other day talking about, has that number now hit 300,000? Because it's hard to find something for 300,000.
Hmm.
But where is, what is that number? What's the realistic number? We could be talking about 300,000 now. That is kind of the baseline of, in Hampton Roads, a housing unit that's going to be decent housing, and hopefully a very nice situation. But even though they're becoming extinct, so you're seeing. I read something. I live in Hampton, and uh, I was looking at some statistics that were showing in the last 2 years or so, prices have surged in Hampton, in neighborhoods that you would not have expected it. My mom's side of the family is from Portsmouth, all the way back to the late 1800s, and there's certain neighborhoods. My mom grew up in Truxton, and we as a family, my grandmother passed away back in '07, but as a family, we held on to the house until several months ago. Sold the house, I think, for something like 105, but that's because sold it to kind of a flipper. I thought we probably should have held on to it, but it was a family decision. The flipper sold it within about a month and a half, 2 months later. In Truxton, sold it for just over 300,000 in Portsmouth. And so,
Wow.
I give you that story. These are real life
are you still
stories.
friends with your family? Are you guys still cool after that decision? I
Yeah,
mean, it
I
sounds
mean,
like
I said, hey, I've been working in housing, guys. Come on now. I hope my mom's
Yeah.
not listening. Um,
sorry, Mom.
but and I talked to some of the neighbors there. The guy across the street, he had been cutting the grass for us, and I went over and talked to him, and he said, that house, that house, that house, these are all becoming Airbnbs, because they're renting out to folks who are going down to the casino. And so, you got
No
to,
Hmm.
hotel at the casino,
there's no
Tim.
hotel.
The
So the
closest
hotel,
one is the Renaissance. Or that's
Oh,
where
correct.
they put everyone up. Yeah.
Now, I will say the casino is on the verge of building a hotel, and the city is looking to court a couple of other hoteliers to build some hotels there. But in the meantime, and even I'd say probably beyond. And this is a challenge that communities across the country are facing. I don't know how we got here, but I think this is it's a healthy conversation, in that short-term rentals. Uh, and I will say this: I am
So
all
Portsmouth allows Airbnbs because some
well,
cities, because
yeah.
Virginia Beach is very against them.
Correct. So I
Okay.
don't know where Portsmouth is on this yet, but what I do know, Virginia, as a Commonwealth of Virginia, Dillon rule state. So most southern states are Dillon rule in that localities, cities and counties do not have any authority other than what is granted to them from the state. And so a few years ago, the Commonwealth granted the authority for localities to regulate short-term rentals. Before that, they had no authority. And so some of your larger municipalities were the fastest to move and say, okay, we can tax these. When you can regulate, you can almost do whatever you want. You can say, we're going to disallow short-term rentals altogether. We're going to limit the number, or we're going to limit the areas of our city or county. And so, you mentioned, Zach, Virginia Beach. I know Hampton is in the process of limiting. Again, I don't know where Portsmouth is, but I think it's safe to say that all of the jurisdictions eventually are going to regulate them in some way, shape, or form. They're going to tax them, et cetera. I support individuals, rights to to kind of live out their dream. Like if it was your dream to rent out your property. I also support localities' right to, do what in the neighborhoods themselves, do what they think is best for the community. So it is a balancing act, but not just short-term rentals. So what you have happening is the last several years, a lot of out of town, even out of state, sometimes out of country investors are buying up properties in our communities. I was at a forum down in Atlanta a couple years ago, and there were some folks from Newark, New Jersey, that were mentioning, had a very nice presentation, showed that in Newark, at the time, I think 80-something% of their single family housing stock was now owned by investors. And so if you're from that town and you're looking to become a homeowner, your chances are dwindling. And it's just an interesting predicament. We saw this surge during COVID. More and more investors are coming into neighborhoods and buying up those properties. So that puts an additional pressure. The available housing units for you and I to purchase
You're
are
not just
limited.
competing against the people in that
Yeah.
that live there
Correct.
or there. Yeah, it's people that have access to capital wherever.
Correct. And I'm
And
not
rock and roll
saying
with
it's
it. Yeah.
necessarily right or wrong. These are opportunities folks have taken advantage of, but it's creating these situations that for the regular guy, it's become tougher and tougher.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's a regular guy. I mean, I would
Yeah.
think that
Well,
90%, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The supply and demand aspect, you're reducing the supply, the demand is going to increase and the prices are going to go higher. And then, gosh, then you're in a worse situation than you're in right now in terms of the mission of LISC.
Last month, I heard that was the worst housing month for transactions in the last 20 years.
So you have higher interest rates. Fortunately, recently they've taken some quick dives, but you have higher costs. So even if these interest rates come down to wherever folks believe it's acceptable, the cost to purchase a house may bring the transaction outside of what they can handle.
You have a tough job.
It's exciting. There's never a dull moment. Our job is it's kind of an impossible job. I wish we could make everybody happy. But I was listening to a podcast just last night, and someone was saying, why do I when I'm walking down the beach save one or two starfish, when someone would say, well, there were 100 of them. You said, well, at least for that one or those two, I was able to improve their life. And so, similarly, we can't, hypothetically, save the world, but in the scope of work that I've been blessed to be able to work in, we're going to do all we can to help businesses, to help individuals, help communities. And so that's really what keeps me going.
What's the best way for people? So like, what is the ideal process? Do they head to Old Town Portsmouth? Do they walk? Do you have walk-in hours, or how do people come in contact with you, and how does that process work?
I would say, feel it would be great to, if folks want to meet with us. We have meetings in person, virtually. No really set hours, but you can reach out to me via my email. I don't know if I should give that out here, if that's what y'all do. So you tell me. You can
That's
go to
up to
our.
you. You, if you want to share it, you're more than welcome to share it. But
Well, I would say go to our
or we
first of all.
we can put your website in the show notes for sure.
Cool. I'd say go to our website, LISC.org/Hampton Roads. So LISC .org/Hampton Roads. We do have a grant process that's coming up starting September 1st. So this is literally perfect timing. So we appreciate the timing that you all brought me onto the show. And so these are grants that are $5,000 and above. Just earlier, we had a small grant process that was up to $5,000. These are grants for nonprofits. So I would encourage your viewers to check out our website and navigate to our grant process. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me, the letter J, grant@lisc.org. Happy to point you to the right direction. And yeah, we entertain conversations as well, even outside of our grant process, to help you navigate and see, if maybe you need some additional support to get to the point where you could receive one of our grants. And of course, if it's a loan, if you're a developer, even if you're a nonprofit looking to, let's say, purchase a building, purchase land to expand, reach out to us because we can entertain those conversations and get you moving in the right direction.
What's something you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
I'm curious to know if, like, Jay, if you were king for a day, to make your life easier, what's the biggest thing that you would implement or change to unlock the logjam that you face?
Ooh.
Oh wow! So I don't know if I'd want to be king, but
Prince.
But in terms of like what would help solve some of these issues that we see, the biggest issue, and I believe both of you see this too with entrepreneurs, is access to capital. So I'd really love to just in one fell swoop be able to change the mindset of society in terms of seeing the benefit of assisting small businesses versus the chains, and every type of business has its place, but there's something special about the coffee shop in Norfolk that I went to today that also served Korean sausage, biscuit, and egg with kimchi on it. I mean, there's really something special about that gives a place flair, gives the community a real grounding. And so if we could, with one fell swoop, change the mindset and buy into that, I don't think we'd have so much of an issue of access to capital. And that's capital for businesses. That's capital for nonprofits. We could solve a lot of these issues. And so I want to see more of that capital pouring in, these resources pouring into many businesses, like some of the ones that were at the Startup World Cup last night. Just seeing that change of perspective, and seeing groups that that are out there preventing violence and the violence interrupters. I'd love to see capital pouring into that, and we would see lives turn around. We would see the guns being put down. We would see kids getting into the books. We'd see more partnerships with NASA, and more kids looking to STEM rather than being on the street and being up to no good. I just would love to see all of that, and we would turn our community around and make Hampton Roads truly the best place to live, work, and play. And that's really what we're committed to doing.
Well, I know from a capital perspective, last night the governing body or whatever, Pegasus Tech Ventures, I think I said that right.
Yep.
Their teammate that came, because the winner of the qualifier goes to Silicon Valley and presents pitches for the $1 million. He had been to several different locations this go around. This is the 6th year, I think he said, they've done it. And he said this was the highest energy, the best well run, just very, very high on kudos. It seemed like he was genuine. Like he went out of his way to like stop me and say that to me.
Yeah.
So it didn't just seem like it was one of those like, oh, let me just say this because I'm supposed to say it type of things. It very much seemed very authentic, and that was cool to hear that, hey, like we've been talking these things in all these other cities that they've already visited this year that you deem better than us. Actually, they're looking at us at being higher than them. So I think sometimes it's reminding people and showcasing people and telling people, hey, like just because you think this area over here is doing better, you've never been there. You just heard something on, someone's Twitter, and that's why you should believe it. No, like it's happening.
Yeah, I agree. And with that, I know one of the things that from the Innovate Hampton Roads side, we just really want to inspire people to do great things. And for whatever reason, the region we don't believe in ourselves, or we've lost that inspiration. And so we want to provide that inspiration to go out there, start a business. And I agree with you, Jay. Like, we can unlock some capital, and then continue that inspiration for people to go out and try to change the world in their own special way. And that will change the community as a result.
Well said. I mean, we can try to change our names 15 times. We can call ourselves Hampton Roads, Tidewater, 757, Southeast Virginia, Mid-Atlantic. I don't know. We can do all of that. And I think there is a place for that. But, we have to believe in ourselves. Whatever we ultimately call ourselves, we have to be our biggest and best advocates. So when we're traveling to San Francisco, when we're traveling to New York, when we're going out of the country, when people say, where are you from? We need to say that with pride rather than, oh, I'm from Hampton Roads. We need to say that with power, pride. We have the responsibility to do that. We are the voice of our own region. And so if we can't do that, no one else is going to do that. And I appreciate those points that both of you provided, that, we are a great region. We do have great energy. We do have capital flowing. And so let's believe in that and believe in ourselves, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I love it.
Extend past Hampton Roads, 7 cities to Isle White, Surrey County, etc. Will you extend? Question from Kim Hasty.
Yeah, hi Kim. It's good to see you. Good to hear from you. Yes, actually. So we
put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's a fine question. So we actually serve. I know a lot of folks call this region the 7 cities, but we go beyond the 7 cities. We are actually working with Catholic Charities based in Norfolk to stand up a financial opportunity center on the Eastern Shore. So I know that's the other way, but our current partnership with Rise Resilience, also based in Norfolk, we have been holding what we call our Community Resilience Innovation Challenge, and we're currently reviewing, actually judging pitches by businesses and nonprofits that applied. that was open to entities to really pilot projects in the greater Hampton Roads region. And so, yes, Isle of Wight, Surrey, Southampton, those areas are a part of our footprint. I've been meeting with the city manager, William Johnson, out in Emporia. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, we go beyond there. Absolutely, Kim.
If you bring someone to the, if you're bringing someone to the area to showcase the region, you want to hit a lunch spot, maybe even that breakfast spot you're just talking about. Where are you going to take that person to show them how great Hampton Roads is?
So, if they're right here at our office, I'm probably going to take them for a coffee right next door to Cure Coffee House, and Cure's got some good locations all around. I like the Smithfield. Going back to Isle of Wight County, I like their Smithfield location. If you haven't ever visited their spot in right in the little kind of the downtown of Smithfield, it's real nice. I'm gonna take them maybe
shout out to Chris Sheldon.
Absolutely, yes. Great job, Chris. I recently I'll put one of your pictures on the spot. Crystal Lugo, we of Glove Scaler, we had lunch recently at the back deck over there. Are you familiar with that? It's kind of near Chicks.
It's right on the water.
It's right on the water. Great spot.
By the Lynnhaven. I think it's the Lynnhaven Inlet. Lynnhaven Lesnar Bridge. Is it the Lesnar Bridge?
I think so. But yeah, there's a lot of great spots. Depending on where I always try to make my meetings easy for who I'm meeting with. But a lot of great spots all over.
Love it.
Well, Jay, I appreciate your time today, sharing the insights about what you got going on with the great things that are happening.
Appreciate you, Tim.
Zach? Yeah, wish you can continue a continued success.
Thank you so much, and likewise to both of you. We'll have to grab lunch sometime. I'll let y'all pick the spot, and looking forward to continue to see great things from y'all.
Likewise. Thanks so much.